Hello and welcome to our Saturdays with Terah Hangout on Air. I'm Mary Beth at the Law of Attraction Club, and we're on the web at theloaclub.com. This hangout is a summary of our theme for the week and will be followed by continued discussion and live Q&A on our member conference line. Then our Change Your World participants will stick around for their check-ins. Today's topic: how fast can you choose and change your world? We also have two open calls coming up. One this Thursday, August 30th, and the following next Saturday, September 2nd, at the same time as we're doing this one now. The August 30th one is in the evening at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. And you can get invites to our open calls by going to the loaclub.com. So now we're going to welcome Robin and Terah.
Recently, we've been encouraging you into imagining what you want, seeing through your eyes the world you want to be in. And last week we began with these words: knowing who you are not only makes sense, it provides answers. It inspires confidence, and it puts you in the best possible position to make changes in your world. This week, with this one, we've been thinking a lot about how quickly you can manifest what you want. And today we'd like to explore the creative process with you and the factors that determine the speed of the process. In this one's world, now, we recognize that you may think we're being a bit pedantic here in digressing a little. But when we say in this one's world, what we are doing here is reminding you that each of your worlds is your unique creation. And although we use examples from this one's world, and they may live as equally valid examples in your world, because after all, you are creating in alignment here. You are choosing many things in your world to be the same. But we do not wish at any point to give the impression that there's only one world and you're all sharing it. And hence, we often say, as we agree, somewhat repetitively, things like, in this one's world, ... And so, in this one's world, Joseph Campbell was a lifelong student of human spirit and mythology. Campbell died just months after recording the hugely successful TV interviews with Bill Moyers that were to become The Power of Myth. Within months of airing these as a PBS special in the United States, the phrase, "follow your bliss," became a catchphrase. You can get a sense of the way Campbell approached life from these words of his. Sacred space is an absolute necessity for anybody today. You must have a room or a certain hour or so a day where you don't know what was in the newspapers that morning. You don't know who your friends are. You don't know what you owe anybody. You don't know what anybody owes to you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. At first, you may find that nothing happens there. But if you have a sacred place and use it, something eventually will happen. Note the words that he uses here. Sacred space is an absolute necessity. Of course, it all depends on what you are declaring as important. But if you are working along with us here and deciding that you are a creature of creation and you are in this world to create new things, then we suggest to you that this is the mission of your life. This is what brings you the most joy. This is why you have come into this game. And therefore, we would agree with the words of Mr. Campbell here. It is an absolute necessity. During that PBS series, Moyers asked Campbell, do you ever have the sense of being helped by hidden hands? His reply was, all the time. It is miraculous. I even have a superstition that has grown on me of invisible hands coming all the time. If you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you. And the life that you ought to be living is the one you are living. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. Campbell didn't use the words law of attraction, but those invisible hands, as he called them, were his way of describing the serendipitous nature of reality that presents itself to you when you are in alignment. The serendipitous nature of reality that presents itself to you when you are in alignment. Follow your bliss was his way of saying, decide what you want and then spend time in imagining yourself into that world of your dreams. And as to his open doors, we say this: you literally cannot see, perceive, or experience Campbell's doors or anything else in your world that is not within your tapestry of expectations. Because it is those expectations that write the screenplay of the movie playing in your mind. If you feel bad, it means nothing more and nothing less than your current focus is on an aspect of your movie wherein there is misalignment between what your superconscious wants for you and what your subconscious expects. Misalignment between what your superconscious wants for you, and it knows what you want, and it wants for you everything that you want. It wants this to be a joyous adventure. It wants this to be your creative world, this delightful experience. It wants all of those things for you. But when there is a difference between what your superconscious expects and what your superconscious wants and what your superconscious expects, and you are focusing on that aspect of your movie, you are going to feel bad. You feel blissful when you have sufficiently shifted your focus from what is to what you want to be. That all levels of your consciousness are aligned around that beingness. That's when the doors appear. The change process begins with deciding what you want. Sounds too simple, doesn't it? And yet, how often do we see you drifting through life and not really deciding what you want? Or you decide what you want only within a very limited range of things that you have built into your superconscious and your subconscious as possible. You rule out the impossible and decide that desiring that is not practical. So you close down the borders of what's possible. You close down the boundaries for your imagination to run within. But the change process begins with deciding what you want. Devoid of boundaries, devoid of restraints, devoid of limits. And the speed with which you achieve this alignment depends on, 1, the degree to which you believe you can do it. And a little reminder here that beliefs are a choice. Do not depend upon so-called facts to determine what you believe. That's backwards. Facts are created by beliefs. 2, the intensity of the focus, the degree of emotion. How much are you truly engaged with this thing that you want, with this experience you want to have, with this shape of you want to step into, with this world that you want to move and shape and recreate and move in different directions? How much is that alive within you? What is the emotion that's involved with this wanting? And number 3, the consistency with which you practice that new belief. And consistency, of course, is 2 things. It is, if you like, frequency. Do you spend the time each day, either in concentrated fashion or from moment to moment or time to time? Do you spend the time each day getting into that place, which is in part, of course, the degree of emotion that you feel about it and the intensity of your focus? And consistency also contains the idea that you need to be able to not second guess yourself and not second guess this creation that you are building here, by settling back and then accepting reality and its limits. So consistently focusing on this new thing that you want to change, to be, to do, to have, whatever. To allow yourself to be in the place of seeing that consistently. So to really understand this process of lining up, let's revisit some of the examples we've used previously. And we repeat this first one as a benchmark of how easy and fast things manifest when alignment exists. Waking up. When you woke up this morning, the bed, the floor, the walls, time and gravity, the whole shooting match were all there instantly. There was no focus, no energy, and no attention required. Think of the enormity of that. You take it for granted, and so you should, because at all levels of your consciousness, you agree that this is the game you are in. You know superconsciously the shape of everything about you. You know subconsciously everything about this physical world of yours and how to survive and thrive within it. You know consciously this is what is going to be you in this day of yours that is just starting. The bed, the floor, the walls, time and gravity were all there instantly. No focus, no energy, and no attention were required. So the benchmark says when everything's in alignment, it's there. It's already existing. You think you are drifting through life consciously. You are not. You are drifting through life subconsciously with occasional interrupts. We would say very occasional interrupts. So let's talk about the waste paper basket exercise, which we have used a lot. And which you take your waste paper basket from wherever it is and move it somewhere else. So let's say it's on the left and you move it to the right. Now, consciously, you know it's on the right. Subconsciously, you'll discover very quickly when you're not thinking about it and you throw that piece of paper you've just balled up in the wrong direction, subconsciously, it's on the left still. And we want you to understand the enormity of that that here you are in the shape of your consciousness that you've adopted to play this game. You have, if you like, two components. And of course, there is great overlap between these, but let's talk about these two components as if they are somewhat separate, somewhat individuated. There's a conscious you which knows your waste paper basket is on the right. There's a subconscious you which makes almost all your decisions, and it knows it's on the left. Do you see that as the truth of your existence right here and now as you are creating it? These two different parts of your consciousness believe two different things, the opposite things. And by the way, which of those do you think has the greater effect on the reality you experience? It's no contest. The big dog in the room by a factor of 1,000 or 10,000 is your subconscious, because it's the one that's making almost all the decisions. So that's the first thing you notice. Differences can occur between different levels of your consciousness. That's called misalignment. Number two, as you go through that exercise, if you leave your waste paper basket where it is, you will notice that it takes time and practice to achieve alignment. And every time you throw the paper in the wrong direction, you go pick it up and put it in the new direction. And every time you do that, it is a learning exercise, you see, for your subconscious. And over time, it learns the new location. Maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes a month. Depends a lot on you and how much you do it and how much you focus on it and so on. And here's the three things we want you to notice in relation to all of the things that you ever want to change. The factors are the degree to which you believe you can do it, the intensity of the focus, the degree of emotion, and the consistency with which you practice that new belief. So, the degree to which you believe you can do it. Well, in this case, in the waste paper basket exercise, the degree is certainty, because you can look down at the floor and see where the waste paper basket is. You know consciously the truth of your physical reality here. So you believe you can do this. The intensity of the focus, the degree of emotion, is probably low. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. It is not a life-threatening exercise to throw the paper in the wrong direction. And then there's the consistency with which you practice that new belief. In other words, every time you throw the paper in the wrong direction, it is a learning exercise because you pick it up and put it in that new place. How long does it take? Perhaps 2 weeks. And the speed with which it takes place will be very much in this situation to do with that point number 2, the intensity of the focus. And if you focus intensely on this change, then it will take very little time, of course. Now let's talk about the fly to London and rent a car exercise, assuming you've come from a country that drives on the left-hand side of the road. So you normally drive on the left. Think back to when you learned to drive. You didn't learn to drive, really. You spent your lifetime watching people drive. You knew how to do it. But what you didn't have was the ability to focus on all the things that are required when you drive consciously to handle all those different events. You normally drive on the left, and that's the way your subconscious drives the car. Now, when you rent a car, you have to drive on the right. Notice the degree to which you believe you can do it. Well, you're probably not going to rent a car at all in London if you don't believe you can do it. So there's a strong belief that this can be achieved. What's the intensity of the focus in this exercise, the degree of emotion? It is very high. Because literally, if you do not achieve this, then there is a risk that you are going to get yourself in serious trouble. It is potentially a life-threatening event. And so What is the consistency now that which you practice that new belief? You have intense focus, and you get in the car and you focus on it and you focus on it and you focus on it. And you are able to achieve it. In that first tentative steps as you take to drive, you achieve that which you want. Because there's a number of things about driving a car. Most of what you need to know about driving a car, you can leave with your subconscious. The way the steering wheel works, where the brake pedal is, and so on. But there are some things that change. But you have to drive on the other side of the road. And that you focus on. As we said, how long does it take? It's instantaneous almost, isn't it? Because with this focus, you are now there. And as you focus on it each time, when you're driving this car, a high degree of emotion, a high intensity of focus, you are teaching your subconscious to do it. And a month out and 2 months out, you are not, that focus is not required because now you've learned to drive on the other side of the road. And so these exercises that we've talked of a lot are interesting in order to have you understand what's going on as you are trading information back and forward between your conscious and your subconscious. You think you are drifting through life consciously, you are not. You're drifting through life subconsciously with occasional interrupts. Your subconscious walks you, talks you, drives your car, and does not show you what it knows you don't need to see. It literally does not show you what it knows you don't need to see. Knows, of course, quote unquote. Because it knows those things because that's what you've taught it to know. This one was out walking yesterday in his usual walk up the hill and around the block and through the trails and so on with the dog. It's a fun time and a time for contemplation. And he was thinking on that walk a lot about these topics. And he got home and he thought, what have I actually seen? What did I actually see on that walk? And of course, he could recall from memory, if you like, what things he was supposed to see or would have seen, the street, the houses, the hill, the path, and so on. But at no point was he conscious of seeing anything. He went through that whole walk in terms of where he went and how he went, driven subconsciously. And we would say, and we'll repeat here, you literally cannot see, perceive, or experience Campbell's doors or anything else in your world that is not within your tapestry of expectations. Because it is those expectations that write the screenplay of the movie playing in your mind. We want you to know that there is no reality beyond what you are creating. You are the author of it. You are the writer of the screenplay. If you feel bad, it means nothing more or nothing less than your current focus is on an aspect of a movie where there's misalignment between A, what your superconscious wants for you, and B, what your subconscious expects. Can you see there the difference? Your subconscious has expectations that define what your world is. And what you may want may be different than what your subconscious is creating. So of course, then there's the first question is, what do you want? What do you want? You feel blissful when you have shifted your focus from what is to what you want, to be such that at all levels of your consciousness are aligned around that beingness. That's when the doors appear. So let's do an exercise here. Get quiet, get comfortable. go within. What is one thing you want to change? Now notice. 1, the degree to which you believe you can do it. And we repeat again here. Remember that your beliefs cannot be based on facts, so-called facts, because it's your beliefs that determine the facts. Now, you may long practice the belief that things are a certain way. That's what your subconscious is telling you. That's why it feels real. But notice the degree to which you believe you can do it, and we would encourage you to say that you can, to believe that you can. Think about that thing you want to change. Notice also, number 2, the intensity of the focus, the degree of emotion. How important is this to you? And 3, what is the consistency with which you practice that new belief? How often do you think of it and imagine yourself into that beingness? How often do you relax back into so-called reality and immediately contradict it by thinking of other things that are hemming you in? And those 3 things, the degree of your belief, the intensity of the focus, the degree of your emotion, and 3, the consistency with which you practice, determines how long this new belief is going to take effect, to become part of you and your world. So let's repeat as we finish here Joseph Campbell's words. If you follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you. And the life that you ought to be living is the one you are living. We would say, and the life that you want to live will be the one that you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in your field of bliss, and they open doors to you. We would say, when you can see that, you create the intersections with those who agree with you, and that's when the doors appear. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And there are several different ways he has ended these words, depending on when he has spoken. And we'll give you 2 here. He says, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And doors will open for you that wouldn't have opened for anyone else. Or, and doors will open where none existed. And both of those are the same thing, you see, because there is only one person who can create your world, and that is you. And those doors literally will not exist until you have created them. If you have come to accept that they can and expect that they will. So this is your world. This is your world. Good.
This hangout was the summary of our theme for the week. We do 3 live calls a week with Q&A on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and that'll be changing back in September to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You can become a member by going to the loaclub.com/join. This coming Thursday and this coming Saturday, or next Saturday, the 1st of September, not the 2nd, the 1st, will be open calls. August 30th and September 1st will be open calls. And then we will start our next round of Change Your World on September 1st on that call. This hangout, as we said, will be followed by our live Q&A, and then our Change Your World members will do their check-ins. So let's go back to listening to Robin and Terah.